Welcome everybody to the Watchlist, your weekly virtual TV guide here every Sunday where we review all the shows and movies released on streaming, and you also set you up for what's coming up in the next week so you can create your very own watch list. Let me introduce my co-host as always. If I never do this alone, so my partner in crime live from Houston, Big Bro himself, El Señor Jaime, aka Chewy. How you doing?
Hey man, when did the 22 season of fantasy football start?
Well, 8 months away. I don't know, 10 months. I don't know when the fantasy starts. So it is what it is. Those who had good seasons, we're not concerned about that. It comes when it comes. So I know you want some redemption on your end for a
Big time.
subpar performance this year, but playoffs are still going
Very.
on, so football fans will still be excited. But there's a lot of shows coming out, so that's to keep us busy until the next fantasy draft, if you will. A couple of shows this week. We're going to talk about two new ones and discuss one that just had its finale on Amazon Prime, and Chewy's chomping at the bit to get to that. But we'll start with the new stuff as always. So we got a couple of shows, both one Netflix, one HBO Max. On Netflix, let's start with the release that Netflix had. That was Archive 81, which was built to be. It seemed like kind of like a horror-esque kind of thriller show, whatever the case is, and it's not a horror show. I've seen 4 episodes, part of the 5. It's not a horror show. However, this is a mystery show with some little bit of horror elements. It's a slow burn, but so far I think it's very good. I like what they're doing with this story here. We have this guy who I guess if he restores old videotapes and film, whatever, restores them back, and a mysterious company hires him to. They found some videos that were presumed lost from a young girl who was a student back in the 90s, and she's doing some kind of study with the camera and all that. And this particular building eventually catches on fire and everybody dies. It's like there's about 13 people who are still unaccounted for, but they want him to go ahead and restore these videotapes that they found. And as he's viewing through them and restoring them, he starts finding out the mystery and what happened that day, what's going on, some supernatural elements, and how he himself is involved in everything despite the 20-year difference. So, Chewy, at least when we start here, listen, I like what they're doing here. James Wan's producing it. I love James Wan. Like I said, not a horror show, so take with expectations, but this is very well done. Slow burn, but the mysteries really unravels bit by bit, and it's very interesting to see what's going on, particularly when they throw in, I'm not gonna say a time aspect to it, but something along those lines. I'm kind of curious where they go with that. But so far it's good, man. I'm enjoying this, man. It's really well done. True, what are your thoughts?
No, I mean I'm always good for up for a good mystery, and this definitely lays the groundwork for that. Where we have certain events, we have certain connections that are exposing through the first few
Mm-hmm.
episodes. Where obviously the main protagonist, his family died very young
In the
in a
fire as well,
fire,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
home fire, right? And then as we uncover the mystery, he starts seeing the connections. He sees a picture of his dog and some of the videos he sees. Finally sees his father show up, right? And so obviously there's connections upon connections, so nothing here is by coincidence. But it's very interesting. Yes, it's slow build up, but it's still good, right? You're trying to uncover what is going on, what transpired, and obviously through his perspective, him uncovering this with a little bit of
Some
scare
elements, not a
elements,
lot, but yeah.
right? Some
Mm-hmm.
tense moments, yeah, yeah. But there's some places where anytime you're alone in the house, that just
Right, of
invites
course.
uh
There's always some, but what's good here, it doesn't.
elements.
This doesn't
Yeah.
rely on the cheap scares that we see all the time, right? Particularly with, yeah, like a,
No,
like
no,
a
no, no,
found
no,
footage
no.
kind of deal. And it's not really found footage. We see him looking through the footage, but eventually they kind of give it a perspective as it was happening real time from the girl who he's following on the videotapes.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
watching it, but then they do an instantaneous flashback to those
right.
events as it's being recorded, but
Exactly. You
obviously it's
see it,
playing
yeah.
up
So you're
and you
not seeing the
see,
graining thing
yeah,
the whole hour of the episodes, which is good. I was kind of worried about that, which is what we're gonna see the whole time. So, but yeah, listen, yeah, it scared me. Yeah, there's no cheap thrills here. This, the horror elements are earned, and like I said, it's I don't know how many have you seen, Chewy? Out of curiosity.
uh,
Okay,
I think
okay.
two or three,
There's
probably
something
three.
there. But I think the fourth one they kind of reveal an interesting aspect in terms of communication between some of the characters. So, but yeah, it's interesting, man. I like what's going on here. It's actually it was well done, and it keeps you engaged. You keep going. It's like okay, they added something, a new wrinkle to it. At the end of the episode. It's like okay, there's more being uncovered. There's more than meets the eye. Obviously, is there something supernatural? I don't know. It appears there is. So that I'm fascinated. It's really good, really well done. Kind of surprised by this. I was expecting more typical horror stuff, which I'm okay with. but this goes beyond that. Again, if you're, it's not a horror. I don't want people to get confused. It's not a horror show at all. It, yeah, nothing like
Not
yeah. It's
slasher,
just
not
some elements
horror,
to it,
not
good
yeah.
tension, good mood, but it's a mystery at the end of the day, and a well built mystery. So I'm recommending it for sure,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, particularly on a light month like January generally is. This is a good watch. I'm definitely recommending this one for sure. I'm looking forward to finishing up. Hopefully it ends well. I assume this is a limited. I don't know if it's a limited series. I didn't quite check on that, Chew. I don't know if you know or not.
I don't
So
think it's
okay,
a
I'm kind of
limited
curious how they
series.
continue this, but I guess it's possible. And so yeah, I'm maybe curious to see where they go with that. But good show. I definitely recommend. I can archive 81 on Netflix. The other big show came out was on HBO Max, and that's of course Peacemaker. Director James Gunn, doing some TV work here, following in the follow up to his The Suicide Squad. Um, so I guess Peacemaker, one of the main characters, John Cena from that movie, he gets his time to shine here, his moment to eat, if you will, his very own show, and it picks off, literally from the end of the Suicide Squad film. So you're a fan of this, you should be watching this show. And I'll start with you, Trey, before I give my thoughts. What are your thoughts so far? But they dropped 3 episodes. I'm not sure we saw 3 and up. What do you think
Mm-hmm.
so far? Okay.
Yes, I saw all three. It is definitely over the top funny. We know John Cena, and this is his
Mm-hmm.
shtick, at least for now, right? As he evolves as an actor, but he knows what he does, and he does it well, right? Deadpan comedy, exaggerated action. I mean, obviously, this is signature James Gunn as well because he's
Yeah.
writing and directing this show. But obviously, using John Cena, his strengths. To the best of his ability and the sarcasm and the humor, it's all there, and it's fairly
Yeah.
raunchy
This is a
on
hard
top.
R.
There's a yeah. There's plenty
Yeah.
of dick jokes and
Yeah.
other shenanigans.
Sexual
You're like, good
situations is
lord,
there, right? I mean, but the play on
yeah,
it, I
it's
think,
all
is
there.
great. By the way, as far as the humor that they use, it's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Like I said, it's entertaining. It's funny. I mean, from the opening intro,
Oh my
the
God.
whole dance
Yeah. The
musical, a
intro.
piece. When I saw that first time, I was just
Yeah.
rolling. I was like, man, the ego, yeah, everyone. I mean, John Cena looks so mechanical dancing to begin with. He's a big guy, so he's not exactly the most fluid guy out there. But it's still fun, and everyone else. Nah, after the
I
third
mean,
do it,
yeah, I
it
mean,
gets a
I
little
get the
old.
intro, but
But I
it's one
mean,
of
you
the
see it
first
too
few
much
intros I
times.
didn't skip right away, and I didn't skip it the second time I watched it. The intro is genius. It's so ridiculous, but it's amazing because all the characters come out, they're just doing this choreographed
Yes,
dance, very awkward dance. Even the Eagly,
yeah,
which is pet, comes on, there's like a little pose in the
yeah,
end. It's just so unique. You don't see stuff like that. Yeah, after the third time, okay, I get it. But yeah, then the kind of doing the robot dance. It's ridiculous. It's over the top, but it's hilarious,
yeah.
and it really sets the tone for what this show is. I'm really enjoying it too. I'm really loving this show. It's great. It's basically what I expected, and like it's good to see John Cena be able to carry his own stuff because we haven't seen him really carry a show or movie before. But this is yeah,
No, I
bits
mean
and pieces.
we've
I
seen
mean,
him in bits and pieces
Blockers
where,
was one which is
as
a
a
funny movie.
character,
Well, he
yeah,
got to have his
yeah,
shine,
that
but
was
he
hilarious. Yeah, that was
it was
pretty funny.
early. He still wasn't
Yeah.
the main guy, but he's gotten better since then. I've never been a big John Cena fan, but I liked his role. He's made.
But honestly, I don't have to see him as tidy whities anymore. I mean,
So
come on,
you
James
gotta
Gunn,
please the ladies.
please,
Dude, what am I tell you?
come on.
I mean, it is,
I
it is
guess,
what it
dude,
is.
fucking A.
According to him, he has a huge schlong, but whatever. I was joking the show away. I'm not, that's not my observation. But no, yeah.
Yeah.
But the humor is that even from the beginning, the first conversation he has with he's in a hospital, waking up after the events of Suicide Squad, and he has a conversation with a janitor right outside, and because John Cena's told he can leave, but he's like, well, this is a trick because he's still a fugitive, I guess, so he got released from prison. And she's talking to Janet. Janet's talking about Janet. Janet's like, "Well, I go to MIT and all this other stuff," and he's being a janitor. And it's just kind of back and forth they go. It's like it's so ridiculous. It's fantastic. But yeah, it's so much fun. This is just a pure fun show, and I'm really curious. Even like Vigilante, his friend, who's just, yeah, ridiculous, but just
Ridiculous.
just awesome at the same
Ridiculous.
time. The little Asian guy fighting.
There's this one scene where they unmask Vigilante and he's doing all these and the reason is that because they don't want him to
A facial recognition.
yeah, facial recognition. So
Little technical difficulties. My apologies out there. But yeah, no, it's yeah. Like I said, he's great, and there's this kind of reminds me. I was telling a nurse planning the other show we have here that this to me this is like a combination of The Tick and Kick Ass. would be the best way I think to describe the show. As far as the vigilante ridiculous that Kick-Ass brought, and they take just these unusual weird characters that worked. Right, they take the cartoon show anyway. Those are familiar with it, and with both. So this is exactly what this is. Highly recommend. Very good on HBO Max. Definitely check it out. It is very entertaining. I have nothing bad to say about the show at all. So those are two new ones. The next one we're gonna touch base on is, of course, the Expanse. The Expanse, of course, the finale, 6 seasons, gave us the final 6 episodes. We've seen this trend with the shortened final season, particularly on Amazon Prime. We've seen that, I think, a couple of times. I think with Hannah, and there was another show I can't remember, which was 6 episodes for the finale. But this comes to us, the finale, Expanse. Chewy, you're the Expanse fan here, so I have to start with you. How'd you feel about the finale and just overall thoughts on this season?
I mean, I think a concern with when watching any of these shows and these must-watch shows, it's always about sticking the landing, right? It's
Yeah,
a
of course.
compelling story and being sustained season after season, but then bringing to an adequate conclusion. And in this particular, I put in quotations because we'll talk about that in a minute. But as far as sticking the landing, absolutely. And that's obviously we can attribute this to Ty and Frank, the two writers of the show, because they developed this world, they created this world, they created these novels, but they did it in a way where they could then migrate it to a TV show and still keep that entertainment value, still keep that smart writing skill, give us that action, give us everything that we love about not only this show but these type of dramas, right? And so kudos to them because they were with it. They kind of used the TV show to kind of do as a rewrite for the books, right? You go to write books are good, but what is good in the printed medium is not exactly great in the visual medium. And I think they did a stellar job. And the final episode was gave us, I think, everything and then some that we expected and we wanted. And hopefully this is not the conclusion, but we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah, overall, yeah, I enjoyed the finale. It's always a concern, right? We've seen shows not stick the landing. I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I won't. But yeah, you have to stick the landing, otherwise it kind of ruins the experience to some degree,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I know you've been a big
absolutely.
fan of the show. I've been a fan of the show, not a huge fan, but a fan of the show. Science fiction must watch. And yeah, listen, the whole season, like I mentioned before, one of the shows that are 6 episodes, it felt like a third act, right? Just get to the point, quick, we're moving. We everything's been established, right? For the most part, another show introduced something new, which we'll talk about that in a second. But the resolution with Marco and all that, and the ring and how things wrapped up. Yeah, it was good. It was very,
And relationships.
yeah, relationship. Yeah,
This gave us. I mean, this gave us. Even though it felt condensed, a little bit rushed, and for whatever reason,
I
it,
expected
it
that.
still it still hit all the high points and wrapped up all the most of the loose ends and gave us emotion and gave us stakes and gave us
Yeah,
those moments where yeah, great action, but it gave us those emotional connections, those moments that kind of set this show apart from just your regular sci-fi, way above beyond any other sci-fi, probably one of the best sci-fi dramas of all time when we look back at the
I have to
totality.
think about it, but yeah,
Uh,
I don't have a
yeah,
problem with that.
if you look at that, what set this show apart is I would say, first and foremost, the writing, the two writers. These guys know what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're not, is it perfect? No, nothing's ever perfect, but do they do it in a way that makes sense, that it's reasonable? They set up things and there's payoff, and they're not cutting corners for the sake of the show or just to cut corners. And they did a stellar job. The dialogue is intelligent. The
Mm-hmm.
ideas that they're showing, right, where basically it's a reflection of humanity, right,
Of course.
in 100, 150 years into the future and what that potentially looks like, but still grounded in enough realism that it's believable, it's plausible. All right. I mean, where other shows where those take shortcuts. I mean, Star Trek, warp speed. Okay, yeah, whatever, make believe, right? Star Wars, lightsabers and force, make believe, more fantasy than reality.
Sure.
But here, right, everything's based on technological advances, but still limited by what the human body can undertake, right? It's that you can't go a million miles per hour and not feel effects and then go indefinitely, right? You still have you're still in space and versus artificial gravity versus things like
Right.
those
This
details.
physics to be considered here.
Yes,
But and
yes,
there's
with
nothing
the
wrong with
integrated.
like
Yeah,
we're speeding up. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I love
yeah,
we
no,
love
no,
Star
no,
Trek. I love
no.
me some Star Wars. I don't want to make it seem like we're shitting on it. We're not.
But
But
no,
I
no.
understand what you're
Star Trek
saying.
was a utopia,
Yeah.
right? A vision,
Mhm.
Gene Roddenberry's utopia of
Sure.
what he thought humanity could be.
Right.
This
What he
is
wanted to
no,
achieve. Yeah.
yes, this is what it actually probably could and will be,
Yeah.
right? If we ever get to that point.
Yeah. And the same
And then
issues, whether it be
yes,
politics or back, all that stuff exists. That's never going to change it.
superpowers between Earth and
Yeah,
Mars,
back alley
and
treaties and
yes,
control. That's never gonna go
but
because
all
that's just humanity,
but
right?
this that all laid the foundation for this final two seasons with the Marco Inaro's
Yeah,
storyline and the characters, right? Where you put your boot on someone's heel, at some point they bite back.
right.
They bite
No,
back,
right. You're
and you
yeah,
pay
yeah,
for those consequences, right? And so the progression of the story and the characters, it was just great. I mean, the visual effects were top notch,
yeah.
right?
That's good.
I mean, the fight. Every time we had a fight scene in space, I mean, they cut no corners, and they gave us exactly that with the physics, the fighting, the tension, the music. All that kind of played into how great this show really is. And when we take time to digest and look back at the show season, I mean, it's going to be up there as far as one of the, if not the top show in this genre for a very long time.
Potentially, yeah. I guess I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I guess, and again, the ending. Yes, I guess the ending that never has to be fantastic, right? And when a show ends, we're not looking for an incredible ending. It's great if we get it. We just want something that makes sense and is satisfying, right? As long as it
We don't
hits,
want Jon Snow walking to the north.
right. You want something that's gonna like, okay,
Or
I like that.
Bran sitting on the throne just because he's there.
Yeah, it's like, God, Game of Thrones. I mean, but
Sorry.
this other should be like Game
Sorry.
of Thrones that do shit like that. But nonetheless, it was satisfying. It was a very exciting finale. My only
Yeah.
issue, my only gripe I had is the way Marco, the main villain, how he went out. I'd like to see a little bit more comeuppance, but whatever. It is what it is. It didn't feel like like this moment when he finally perished felt like, yeah, satisfying. But small
I mean,
complaint. I like the way
yeah,
I like the way it occurred.
but what was satisfying was his realization that that's what they were doing, and it
Yeah,
was like
but it felt really quick for me. It just felt really quick.
oh yeah, well,
I don't know if it
yeah,
hit enough to me, like say, yeah, I take that. So I didn't get that moment, right? But listen, a small complaint. It really is. Overall, grand scheme of things, it was well done. Now,
now the one emotional moment that I want to touch on with where we think Nomine got his son dies, right, and
oh,
that
right,
feeling
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that was very impactful, at
yeah.
least to me.
No,
And
no,
if you're a
agreed,
parent
agreed.
and having it was beautiful done when they had that flashback when he's a baby,
Yeah,
right? And the realization that you have to kill your child, you have no choice but to kill your child to prevent a greater calamity, and which he does, and you feel it, right? Now, obviously, we see the ending where he finally came to his senses, right?
yeah,
And it's overlaid with her speech as far as you don't know how with your words how will impact people at some point,
mm-hmm.
good and bad, which is true, right?
Sure.
And him and overlaying that with what he finally does, to rid himself of being in that situation, being under his father's thumb finally, and giving us that but then that moment of like, oh, okay, he still made it, right? He still found a way to get away, right? So, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
mean that was
which I figured I was going at because at first I'm like, well, they should have just shot him the first time he had a chance with the rocket if they're going to go that route. Like, whatever. So I'm glad, I mean, I was hoping he would have escaped, and he did. So let's get to it. So obviously, this is the finale, whatever, right? It is, but they left the show so wide open for future stories, and every show this season, the cold opening, whatever, gave us a different storyline. Well, they were focusing on a different storyline, right? And
well,
it's part of it,
they
but
integrated a new offshoot, right?
right,
Where this is part of there was a novella, Strange Dogs, where we introduced some of these characters, right? And it's given us the Laconia Empire beginning storyline,
sure,
right? Because that goes into the next set of the next trilogy of books.
right,
And I've said this from day one. You don't. These guys are not dumb. They're not putting this stuff in there just for shits and giggles because
no, of course not,
this is not tied in any except one minor piece in any way, shape, or form to the events of what's going on with Marco and Arms.
right,
Right. This is just something separate that is far off. There's something nefarious going on, right? And it's developing because we knew they went there. Now they tell us, okay, every first 5 minutes they're giving us a little piece. We're getting a little Pet Cemetery action, right?
yeah, good call.
Essentially, right? A Cara Exla. But there's gonna be a payoff, and that's why because you don't put dedicate because this is time and money, right?
Hmm.
You know, there's effects. So every time you do something that deviates from the show, you're spending time and you're spending money on this. And so what you're doing is you're setting up, you're writing something to progress the story beyond where you're currently at, laying the seeds, right? Right. The payoff. There's
Sure.
going to be a payoff for this for something because they gave us what happened with the Martian offshoot. They gave us something that what they're doing. That you see the development of this new warship,
Hmm.
right? Of a proto-molecule warship in space and progressing as far as it's powering up, right? Especially with Kara and Zan. And you don't just do this, because you want to fill 5 minutes of time, because you have nothing else to do. You had enough material to work with to get through 6 episodes. You're gonna say you're gonna do 25 minutes of this other stuff, 30 minutes of this stuff just because? No. Yes, and if you went through the whole ending of the last episode, right? So you get the traditional ring, right, and space and how it looks. But in this last one,
Right.
okay, you see more red starting to pop up all over the ring. And then in the middle, you get that protomolecule
Hmm.
Laconia ship, right? That's being built or being expanded, and it's getting larger and larger. So to me, right, maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe this is just red herring, or whatever. But I think this is setting up for something at some point. I don't know when. Maybe not this year, maybe in a couple of years,
I
but
mean,
at some
mean,
point they're going to
it
pick this
depends.
up
I mean, we'll
and
see, right?
continue.
Maybe they left it open so they can continue. I know Amazon Prime was done with it. Maybe someone else picks it up. I mean, Amazon Prime picked it up from
I
from
hope so.
Sci-Fi
I hope so
channel.
because there's
So
enough story.
maybe because I know that I know they did it on purpose. They
Yeah.
want to set something up to where maybe Amazon Prime changes their mind. I don't know. But at least the
Mhm.
story they focused on was finished, right? That nothing was open ended in terms of that for the most part. This is something new, which I would like to see
Mhm.
what happens. I mean, I'm interested to continue this. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. But that was definitely a setup. Normally, I would complain about that to some degree,
Yeah.
but since they did at least close out the other story, okay, and they didn't give us too much of this new setup to where like, oh man,
Mhm.
come on, I want to see what's going on. Just enough to kind of like say to get your
Yeah.
interest in the
I mean,
possibility of a new series
if
continuing.
yes, yeah. And even in the dialogue, they kind of say, at the very last sentence, like she tells Holden, let's
Right,
relax,
it's
enjoy the moment,
something's gonna happen.
you
I
know,
mean, yeah, just relax for
let's
now,
just
because
chill. Yeah, we got
we
a
may
whole
need
future
you
to plan out.
again.
Let's
Yeah,
enjoy this moment.
exactly. So,
Breathe. Yes,
so
yes,
let's see.
exactly. But what's funny, we'll get into the spoiler right here. Obviously, the next set of novels, there's a 30-year jump between the events
Okay.
here and what happens next. So there's a significant break in between. Number two, these two characters, Kara and Zan, these are two main characters that show prominently in the next set of novels. Not main characters, but they're definitely
Okay.
plot elements, and they're involved in the story, and even more so now in the final novel that I'm reading, number nine, Leviathan Falls. So these are not just throwaway characters that okay, they're there for a novel and they're plot elements and little pieces and that's it. And obviously Admiral
Right.
Duarte, which we saw finally in these last three cold opens, his presence is definitely obviously his fingertips all over because he is introduced as the next, I guess
Okay.
the
I
next
figured.
big
Yeah.
baddie, right? Along with the unknown of this other anti-protomolecule,
Right.
being
No. Yes.
whatever
And
that is.
let's see. I mean, I hope so. I hope someone picks it up. And I don't know. If not, then if not, it's fine because we got a good ending to what we've been. Yeah. We had a good
No,
conclusion.
we
This
got a
is just like
conclusion.
this is
We got a
bonus. It's
conclusion.
like bonus material. All right, cool. I'll see
Yeah.
some more shit. But if not, I'm okay with it. So overall, a good ending, and that's all you can get out of this.
And that's
Right.
how their authors intended. They intended to write
Hmm.
three trilogies, right? And the first trilogy is man, where they are, right? The second one is okay, the new technology. How does that advance? And then the last piece is
Right.
like, what is the net
Exactly.
result
Hmm.
at the end,
And that's
right?
the part
After
that
all this.
we'll wait and see. I mean, well, listen, good show, really good show. Highly recommend and all that. No technical difficulties, my apologies. But yeah, so if you haven't seen this, I definitely recommend you guys go if you have time. You like sci-fi. This is one I definitely recommend you guys, watch. Sooner or later. Again, it's a light. The beginning of the year is always light. There's not a whole lot of stuff coming out. So if you get a chance, catch up. Six seasons, very well done. So I really appreciate this one. I think we lost Chewy, but let me finish off here. What's coming out next week? Set up your watch list. We got two one big show coming out on Netflix and a movie coming out on Netflix. Nothing else more. Maybe a couple of small things they have to do. I'll talk about them next week. But we have Ozark dropping on the 21st. Huge Ozark fan. This is the fourth season. But it's the final season split into two. So there'll probably be a part one, part two version of it, from my understanding. But I'm excited. It's a show which I've really enjoyed. The third season it took a step down from the previous two. Not that it was bad, but it just took a step down. I'm hoping the fourth can bring it back up. Such a very well-written show, good drama, good mystery. I always equate this to a Breaking Bad in terms of comparison. Not as good as that, of course, but something similar, particularly with the main character played by Jason Bateman. So part 4 is coming out soon. Very excited about that. The other one is a movie on the same day on Netflix called The Munich, The Edge of War. We got the notable star be Jeremy Irons, of course. He's a very underrated actor. He's Alfred in the new Snyderverse Batman. Whether that's good or bad, he was good in it for whatever that's worth. But that's coming out a night takes place in the 40s, obviously espionage and involving the Nazis. I'm a sucker for that. So this looks interesting, looks good. So I'm hoping that could be a good film. Oh, 2 weekend back.
Sorry about that. I missed that.
No, it's okay. No, it's fine. Yeah, I was just going over next week's stuff. We got Ozark, of course. I know you're a big fan as I am.
Oh yeah. Part one, final season, part 1.
Yeah, so it is a part 1. I mentioned that, so I wasn't sure. So this part 1, part 2 situation.
This is part 1. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this is gonna be the season's gonna be extended. Bonus. More than 10 episodes. Or if this is like they did with Casa Papel, where they did 5 and 5. Hopefully, it's the prior.
Right. Yeah, Casa Papel did 5 and 5. So I don't know how many episodes this is going to be. We'll find out on Friday. But yeah, excited about that. I was talking about, of course, the Munich, the Edge of War with Jeremy Irons on that one. Looks
Jeremy Irons.
Two things that always get me in a heist.
Ozymandias.
Yeah, a heist always gets me in. Yeah, that's right. Heist gets me in, and then a good Nazi come up and this always gets me in. So those are two things. All right, I'll watch it. So this was interesting, and if it's good or not, we'll see. So it's a light week. So it's a great time to catch up on the shows. Peacemaker, Archive 81, and give me a chance to finish that. And of course, Expanse. If you haven't seen it, you want Sci-Fi. That's guaranteed Sci-Fi. I think people are going to enjoy. I know Chewie's very sad because it's over. His fantasy season went to shit. Expanse is over.
I know.
What does he have left?
Sweat on all fronts.
But he's got Ozark. We got Ozark. I'm excited about Ozark.
We all like Ozark, but it's no Expanse. Right? Let's be honest, man.
It's more my kind of show, to be honest.
It's a good crime drama.
It is, and I mentioned third season was a step down. I thought it was still good
as compared to the first 2 seasons.
Correct,
yes.
right. In comparison, but this is to me in the vein, and I mentioned not as close, not as good as Breaking Bad, but similar, particularly with the main character. But yes, I'm excited about those. So we'll talk about those next week, and maybe something else pops up that we haven't seen or whatever the case is. That being said, that's today's show. We appreciate it as always. We got a new Thanos Choice, another show dropped this month. Check it out. We got Nurse-Planning every Thursday here with our host Eric Da Silva. Subscribe, share. We appreciate it and all that. Enjoy your football.
AKA Logan.
Oh, AKA Logan, that's true.
AKA Logan.
Or Wolverine, or whatever. AKA, a poor man's Logan, or I like to say a third world country Logan.
Who is Logan's brother? What was the character? Sabretooth? He kind of looks more like Sabretooth, right?
Oh man, he looks like more like Kitty Pryde, but we love you, Eric. That being said, check us out on the channel, subscribe. We got 3 main shows here in the Latiners Network. We appreciate it. See you guys next time.